Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Kunal Gautam, currently serving as the junior editor cum spokesperson for Sarjana. Today, we are presenting a webinar on exploring the sky of higher studies with Dr. Rajesh Ranjan. Participants kindly note that the presentation will be followed by an interactive session, during which Rajesh sir will answer all your queries. Please hold your questions till then, after which you can post them in the chat section. Now, without further ado, let us begin. To introduce our esteemed speaker for the day, I would like to hand over to Anil sir, a member of the Sarjana Vitan family and a proud alumnus of BIT Sindri. Sir, please.
Thank you, Kunal. Thank you, Sarjana team. Hello, everyone. A very good evening to one and all. I hope you are doing well and keeping yourself safe in these testing times. And thanks to all of you for joining this webinar in such a rainy and winter weather when all we want is chai and pakode and a blanket to activate our lychee side. So thanks once again. Now moving on to the webinar, it is my profound privilege and an honor to host Professor Rajesh Ranjan sir for this webinar. Words will fall short if I have to give a detailed introduction of sir, and then another hour will be needed just to introduce him and his work. Nevertheless, I'm showing an audacity to introduce him briefly. Professor Rajesh Ranjan is an assistant professor in the Department of Aerospace Engineering at IIT Kanpur. He's an illustrious alumnus of BIT Sindri who did his bachelor's in chemical engineering between 2001 to 2005. He was the branch topper every year and also became the grand topper in 2003, perhaps the first in the history of BIT Sindri to do so from chemical engineering. He obtained All India rank 3 in GATE Chemical Engineering 2005 and secured admission in the Department of Aerospace Engineering at the prestigious Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Although he had offers from other departments as well, he chose aerospace because of his interest in flying objects and outer space. After masters, he joined a supercomputing startup company by Tata, Computational Research Laboratories at Pune. Here he was part of the team that built the world's fourth fastest supercomputer, EKA, and also that which made precise weather predictions during the launch of India's first lunar mission, Chandrayaan-1. He, however, was intrigued by the vastly complex turbulent flows and therefore decided to pursue higher studies. He joined P.H.D. at JNCASR Bangalore to work under Padma Vibhushan Professor Rodham Narasimha. Subsequently, he went to the Ohio State University at Columbus, USA for postdoctoral research and then moved back to India to join IIT Kanpur as an assistant professor. Professor Rajesh Ranjan is a person of varied interests. Although his primary research area is computational fluid dynamics, turbulence, and gas turbines, he is also a leading researcher in India in COVID-19 modeling and predictions. He has deep interest in Indian history and literature. He was a member of Sarjana during BIT Sindri days and continuing his association as a Vitan member. He has been published in several newspapers, including the Times of India, Hindustan Times, Navbharat Times, Dainik Bhaskar, etc., and appeared live on several news and media channels. He likes writing poetry, reading classical literature, and interacting with students. So without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Rajesh Ranjan sir to take over from here. Professor Rajesh Ranjan sir.
Thank you very much, Kunal and Anil and all the members of Sarjana and Vitan. It's a great pleasure to be back here among the students of BIT Sindri and the members of Sarjana, of course, who are so dearly to me. And it's a great pleasure to talk about the topic which is very close to my heart, that is exploring the sky of higher studies. And let me share the slide and also turn on my camera. If just preparing for gate. If they are preparing for GATE, then I will start preparing for the GATE, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I did not have any direction at that point of time. Okay, so I knew that okay, I got into a good college, so perhaps the journey will not be very tough now onwards. But of course, the placement scenes were very bleak at that point of time, and we were just very worried about getting a job. I really never cared about my career at that point of time. So whatever job I could get, I will take that and I'll pursue. Okay, the interest hardly mattered, that which one is the field that I really like. It started really mattering when I got, by the grace of God, some good ranks and good achievements towards the end of my BTech or BSc Engineering, as we call it there. But before that, I think in the second year and the third year, I did not have much of depth into what could be the career that I want to make. Okay, so let's start with that. So this talk becomes even more important because we are going through these several waves of the COVID-19 since last 2-3 years, and not only India, it's there all over the world. And so I was talking to one student who was giving an interview to me today, and he was saying that he applied to several places for a PhD position, but he did not get it. Okay, so I would request if you do not mark the screen because it disturbs here. Okay, so the situation is not so shiny across the world. Okay, because of this unexpected COVID-19, and that has devastated our lives in more than one ways. Okay, so you can see, for example, in India, we had the first wave somewhere in the like July of 2020, and then we had second wave, which was very devastating, the Delta wave, and we lost many lives during that time, which was in early 2021, and then this year we are going through the third wave. And as Anil was saying, I also work on the modeling, but that's a subject of another day. You can look at some of my predictions on this website, covid19forecast.org. Okay. Now, so you may wonder that what will happen. So there are a lot of uncertainty, right? So because there are not many jobs, companies are not hiring. So what would happen? The future looks bleak. Right. So I just want to give you some example between, let's say, the first wave and the second wave. Between the first wave and the second wave. Okay. So the first wave, you all know that towards the March 2020, we had a severe lockdown, and the work from home was being enforced, and it actually continued for 4 or 5 months. And that time you could see, if you look at the hiring, so February 2020, the hiring was around 3,500 in the IT sector. In May 2020, it became 1472. But it boomed again. If you go to December 2020, it actually went to similar level, around 3,081. Okay, similarly, if you look at the medical health professional, so it was around 6,000, goes to 4,000, and then it goes to 6,000 again. So what we see here is a pattern, and that's true with other sectors also, although I'm highlighting these two things, IT and medical, which was it is most prominent. So what you can see that although we may have the time where there are not many jobs in the market, if we are prepared and if you're patient enough, the market will rebound, as we saw in the basically between the first and second waves. Because there are jobs in the market, it's just a temporary phase that they're not able to hire you because of uncertainty. Okay, and as soon as the uncertainty wanes, there will have a lot of vacancies in the market, and if you're ready to grab that, you will be able to grab that. Okay, I mean, just to give you one example, this I got it like a couple of days ago, that the BIT Sindri is also doing better in this time. Okay, despite the COVID-19 waves, there are a lot of vacancies compared to the earlier years. Of course, you cannot compare with like normal year, but compared to the years which were affected by the COVID-19, this year seems to be doing good. Okay, so we should be remain hopeful. So whether you get selected within the campus or outside the campus, or whether you want to pursue the higher studies, the one thing you should always keep in mind is that if you are prepared, always you will have opportunities. Okay. Now let's go ahead. Now, what are the prospects after B? So we are coming to our key point. So after knowing that, there are opportunities, what is that I should do? That is the question, right? मैं क्या करना चाहता हूँ अपने BE करने के बाद? So as I told that normally it is not very clear, at least until the second year, that what is the direction or what is my interest, right? So normally people look into two things. Okay, as I know that they go to the IIT and core, or they look for kind of civil services. I know many people in BIT Sindri who actually went and became very good civil servants. Several of them are Sarjana members. They were in Sarjana in BIT Sindri, and they went on to become very good civil servants, and they're serving the country now. Okay, so the third path is basically these are the immediate jobs that you're looking for. So jobs you can prepare, you can take it on campus or off campus, or you can try looking for a job like civil services, engineering services soon after that. Right, but you are preparing for the job here. But then there is another part to the career where you want to do some higher studies. So normally there are two bifurcations: those who want to go for higher studies, one who wants to go vertically upward. So for example, you want to go for higher education. So if you have done B.Tech, you want to do M.Tech, you want to do P.H.D, and so on and so forth. Okay, the other direction is basically not really vertically upward, but kind of going into a different stream, which is management. So this is, of course, a high-paying job. This basically deals with finance, so you will get a high salary. So this is also a craze of many students that they want to do MBA management, right? So for that, students prepare for CAT, and for this higher education, they prepare for GATE and GRE. So actually, I prepared for all of this. Okay, I prepared for GATE. So when I wrote GATE, that time I wrote CAT also. Okay, and GRE I wrote later. So CAT, I had the percentile of around, I think, 98 percentile or something like that. So a very good college was out of scope. The GATE, I got the All India rank 3. So that's why I decided to pursue GATE. But as I told you that suppose I would have gotten 99% or 99.9% in CAT, I would have gone for a MBA school. So I am not deciding my career. The scores are deciding my career, which is not a very good thing. Okay, and I will come to that why. Okay, if I had that kind of clarity that okay, I want to do research, I should have basically seriously prepared for the GATE and gone there. But I prepared for both of them, and I did decent in CAT, but I did very well in GATE. So I decided to pursue higher education in the aerospace engineering in IISc Bangalore, as Anil spoke. Right. Now, after the GATE, so that time I had some options, job options right after the GATE. So for example, BARC called me and said that they want to give a job to me directly. Okay. So right now there are a lot of options after the GATE. So you can directly take a job into, there are a lot of like DRDO jobs, which only evaluates you based on the GATE score and perhaps an interview. Right. So there is no separate entrance test. And I know there are many PSUs who take GATE as a kind of standard, and based on that they make their evaluation or they hire you, right? But that is not the only option. Okay, so you can also do PhD after the GATE. You can work in PSU that I already talked about. You can go into the research area, and there are other things like I'll come to that later, like publishing papers. That is not a job, but basically it's a part of the job when you are doing PhD. Okay, and then if you have a GATE score, you have a better chance to start as an assistant or associate professor into private universities or private colleges. Okay, so this is really helpful, and my talk will be focused on GATE. Okay, because that's what I've pursued since my B.Tech. There are people I think who will talk about in the series of the talks organized by Vitan. There will be people who will be talking about advantage of doing MBA. Okay, so that's another way to do higher studies, right? But today, in the current talk, I'll be talking about GATE here. Okay. Now, when you are deciding that what I want to do in my life, okay, so how do you do that, and what is the time that you should do that? Okay, so first thing is that you need to gather information. So for example, you're attending the talk today, so talk to the people who have gone and became successful into their relevant areas. So that is very important, and that is something you can do by being a part of the network. Okay, that's very, very important. In nowadays time, it's more important than ever. Okay, so you cannot be isolated. You have to be part of the society, part of the network, so that you can get the right information. Ask people, of course, that is very important. You need to be open to talk to people. Okay, the third is weigh your options, strength, and interest. So what is your interest? What is it that you want to do? So suppose you want to do MBA and somebody tells you that, okay, no, research is a better option. I don't think you'll be able to justify yourself, right? So this is something you need to understand very well, and you need to decide it a little bit early, okay, maybe in the second year. So whether you like engineering mathematics, or whether you like physics there, or whether you have interest in the management subjects. So those kind of things will help you make your career plan. So unfortunately, what happens in developing countries like in India, or I mean, any other developing country you name. So the first thing that they want to do after their B, you basically want to get a job. Okay, and that is not unjustifiable given our current scenario, that basically we are mostly middle class families, and we need to become the breadwinner of our family, right? So if we cannot compromise on that. So if you say that, okay, I want to do PhD after my B.Tech, and there is a sister who is yet to be married in the family, then you would probably suppress that interest and go for a job, right? So it becomes a difficult choice at some point of time. It's easier said than done that, okay, go with your career or your interest. But if you have an option that you can go with your career, I would suggest that please go with your interest. So there is a difference between career and a job. Okay, job is basically short term. So what you decide, okay, I got a job, I got into Infosys, I got into TCS, I got into like Sterlite, or I got into maybe some Tata companies. So that is your immediate choice. Okay, the career is something you make for a long plan. Okay, what you eventually want to do in your life. Okay, whether you want to do a 9-to-5 job every day, or you want to have some flexibility in your life, you want to give more time to your family, all those things. So these kind of things you need to make decisions when you're deciding over the career. We are mostly job oriented. We're not career oriented in India, and that is, as I told you, because of the like prevalence of the middle class society. Okay. So yeah, regardless, I think because I'm talking to the engineering audience here, I would suggest that get a good grasp in maths in either way. This is going to help you, I mean, throughout your career. So if you are going to the GATE, maybe your calculus and algebra will help you more. If you're going to finance or MBA, maybe a knowledge of probability, statistics, that will help you more. But you cannot get away with maths if you are into engineering, okay, ever in your life. So this is something you should not ignore at any point of time. Now, the question is, why higher education? So if I can get a job right away, somebody is offering me a job of like, let's say 10 lakh per annum, why would I go for any career with where a lot of uncertainty? Maybe I'll get a job after 5 years, maybe I will not. Maybe I'll get a job which is less than what I'm getting now, right? So why should I really consider the higher education? So what is the importance of that? So there are a couple of points I would like to talk about, that why higher education or high studies is important. So it really tells you what your true potential is. So after you do B.Tech, you learn a little bit about all the things. But if you ask about the depth, that okay, really, what are the path-breaking ideas of the subjects that you have studied so far, you will not know at that point of time. But if you pursue higher education, you'll probably come to know that, okay, this is the area where if I invest my time and energy and potential, I can make the field, I can change the field. Okay, so that helps you in realizing your true potential. Self-satisfaction is something that I'll come to that later. Okay, global exposure. So normally the higher education is done into an institute which is in terms of ranking better than your institute. right? So for example, if you are doing your BTech from BIT Sindri, I would not advise you to go and do, let's say, your master's or MBA, which has got ranking lower than BIT Sindri. Okay, ranking means the kind of exposure or overall ranking, or yeah, I mean, you know what I'm trying to tell, that anything which is like lower in terms of overall position in the country or across the globe, I do not think you should consider that while going forward in your higher education. Okay, so that's very, very important, that it gives you global exposure. So the people, what you do, like they go outside to do their PhD or masters, right? So then you'll come to know about different countries, culture, what are the problems there. If you do not do that, if you, let's say you get a job and you stay with your company throughout your life, that's another kind of exposure, because you'll be meeting different kind of people. But if you go and spend time, let's say in the US or Europe or any other country, let's say 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, we'll come to know that what are the problems, how is the society there. So that really gives you a different perspective of life. It helps you in long run. So what happens, I have many friends who tells me that, okay, they have done very good, but they cannot go into a, let's say, a position of a director or position of something of more repute, because they do not have a PhD degree or they do not have a master's degree. So the degree comes as a bottleneck there. Okay, so you might be doing very well in the company, but there are some positions reserved for a person with a higher degree. So if you do not have that, you will simply not get that. Okay, you might go up your ladder, you might get the salary that you want, but if you want certain post, I think it helps if you have a degree beforehand. Okay, so that's why many people in the industry, they go for a PhD. So while working in the industry, they go for a PhD because they know that it's going to help them later. Okay, you have more career options if you do your higher education, and you can go to research, you can go to academia. These kind of things are normally not available just after your BTech. Okay, you need to do higher education for that. Your value in society interaction is higher. It's more common in South India, where they value your education. In North India, unfortunately, they really value your annual package. So, but in South India, if you go, for example, if you go to Tamil Nadu or Andhra, or even I think Karnataka or Kerala, they really value the higher education. Okay. It gives you better perspective life, as I told you, that you get a global exposure and you come to know about different ideas, different perspectives, and then you can define what best suits you. Okay, what are the cons? So the cons are really very important. So the immediate financial support is either negligible or it is very small compared to what you could get from a job. So suppose you got a job in a software company, you might earn, let's say, 50,000 or 1 lakh rupees per month. But if you are coming for a master's program, you might be getting like 15,000, 18,000, 20,000, right? So if you have a family to support, it becomes difficult. And the second thing is very important, which is like the options get limited with specialization. This is a counter part of what I'm saying, that you might have a research and academic career options, but then what happens that if you are doing PhD, so you are specializing into something which is very, very narrow, right? So suppose you might be doing a chemical engineering. So I was a chemical engineer, BIT, so that's how we give you an example, right? So, but then you specialize into, let's say, the polymerization. So that is your field in your PhD. So what happens that you start forgetting about what you studied in your BTech, and then it becomes a little bit narrow. And secondly, you do not want to go into the software after doing your PhD, let's say, right? So your job option may get limited. But on the other hand, if you are doing well and if you did that with interest, you will get a position which will really satisfy you. Okay, so yeah, so each person's situation is different. So we are options, but what I say that once decided, do not have a regret. So when I decided to go from chemical to aerospace engineering, many people told me that why you're doing that, because there are not enough jobs in aerospace. It looks very charming, very exciting, but unfortunately there are not enough jobs. Chemical, they would say that, okay, you can go to the Shell, you can go to Slumberger. There are a lot of like oil companies which can take you. But aerospace, I mean, India has not even built a passenger aircraft yet, right? So all we have is like Boeing and Airbus. They have started the companies, I mean, their India branches few years ago, and that's only thing we have. We have NAL and DRDO, but the options are very limited. Okay, so but then I decided aerospace, and I'm very happy that I decided aerospace because it's a very competitive field, and it really, I mean, puts challenge in front of me. Okay, now career in research. So I do research. So what are the challenges? So what do you mean by research, right? So it's a very challenging and very strenuous thing compared to regular, let's say, 9 to 5 job, and in a different way. So for example, it's like very strong attention to details. So people normally, if you look at a normal conversation, they would say, okay, for example, I talked to many reporters regarding the COVID-19, and after the second wave, they kept on asking me. So people are saying that more children will get affected by the COVID-19. Is it correct? So I said that if you look at the data, the children got affected in second wave was as good as children got affected in the first wave. It's only the numbers of the total people affected were higher in the second wave. That's why more children got affected. So you need to do that analysis. But people do not do that analysis, especially the press. They do not do that. They would just want something which can basically take your attention, right? So this is very important that you need to have details outlined, okay, in everything that you do. For example, all the pictures that you see in my presentation, it will have a link that from where I got it. Okay, so these are something which is very necessary when you're doing research. You should have outstanding analytical skills. It demands hard work. So it is relaxing in the sense you can do at your own pace. But once you're into it, suppose you're working on a research problem, it really makes you mad. Okay, because you would forget your eating hour, sleeping hour, and you'll be just keep on working on that. I'm 24/7, and that's how the nature of research is. No weekends, no weekdays, no 9 to 5 job. Once you are into it, you are into it. Okay, this is cross-discipline. So you are working, suppose I'm in aerospace, I cannot say that, okay, I don't know anything about biology or I don't know anything about physics. You have to have knowledge or you have to have breadth about different things that is happening in the world. Okay, the standards are very rigorous. If you want to publish a paper, it will go through the peer review and you'll have very harsh critical comments. Okay, no matter how big shot you are. There are people who are Nobel laureate, they send their paper and they get rejected. They say, no, this is not up to my standard. There's certain flaws in that paper, right? So it has got rigorous standards. Publishing is not easy. Publishing in a good journal is not easy. There are a lot of predatory journal nowadays where people are publishing, and it's not a good thing because it does not help you in the long run. Okay, so it has to be peer reviewed and in a proper journal. So it is challenging and strenuous, but it is also rewarding and satisfying. Okay, for example, if you are a good researcher, you can make an impact. Actually, you can help the society and the country, right? You can build a network of like-minded people because you have a lot of conferences across the world, not only across like the city or country, but across the world. So we have like conferences every 2 year, 3 year, 2-3 times in a year. Okay. Then we have it broadens your mind, as I told you that higher education basically gives you a different perspective. You are always in cutting edge. You will always know what is the cutting edge technology, and because you have to be. If you are not up to that point, up to that mark, nobody is going to take you seriously as a researcher. But you also have the flexibility. So suppose you did a groundbreaking research. Now you can chill out. You can go to Goa and stay there for 15 days and don't do anything. So that is also there, right? So that is all up to you if you are making career in research. So one of the quotes by my professor with whom I did my PhD. So he used to say that I'm being paid for things that I like doing. Isn't that wonderful? Like I would have anywhere done that job, right? What I'm doing. So I'm doing research on COVID-19. I would have done that even if I were not a professor in IIT Kanpur. But now I'm being paid for doing that because I have a position there. So isn't that wonderful? So that are the perks of being in research, that you get to do things that you like. Okay. Now, after doing your PhD, you can also go to another route, which is industry. You can become a researcher in the industry. So I will not much time here. I will just say that, okay, if you go to industry, there are certain rules that you have to follow. Okay, yeah, we are not your own boss. And of course, you have to dress in a certain way. Okay, you have to listen to the people who is above you. Those things are not there in academia. Okay, so you have like flexibility, freedom, and intellectual autonomy in academia. But in industry, you have high salaries, right? So that kind of salary will not get in academia. Okay, if you want to make money, I would any day say that go to industry. Okay, it is high paying, the industry is high paying, but it is more constant and monotonous lifestyle. Okay, so of course it depends on the company also, and there are people who are very happy in the industry, right? So, and there are people who are not happy in the academia. So all kind of people are there, but I'm making a general comment that you have more flexibility in the academia, but more salary in the industry. Okay. Now, if you ask me that what are the things that I do, I mean, people normally think that a job of a professor is very easy. Okay, and if you ask me what are the responsibility that I have, so I have to teach courses, that undergrad, postgrad, and all those things. Okay, and I have to prepare assignments, evaluate them, prepare for exams, of course, prepare for lectures, and then I have to grade them. So that is my primary responsibility that I have to do. Then I have to mentor students. So I have 4 master students. I have 3 or 4 interns. Okay, I have PhD students. I will have the RA, research assistants, research associates. So I have to mentor all of them. So there are at least 10 people who are dependent on me at this point of time. Okay, so I mean, I am responsible for their career growth. So I have to mentor them. I have to do research, and I have to look for the novel ideas. I have to look for the what is going on in the across the world, and how can I contribute to that. Nobody is going to tell me that, okay, you do research in this part. Okay, that is something that has to come from inside me. I have to publish papers, because if I do not publish papers, no matter how good I do the research, they are not going to take me seriously, because that is not peer reviewed. Okay, so I have to, as a part of that, I have to attend conferences, travel across the world, apply for grants. That is very important, that you have to keep on getting money, right? So you have to write a proposal, you have to go to meetings, you have to meet different people in the government and industry, make presentations, and you have to get money. If you do not have money, you cannot do research, right? So this is something that you have to get by yourself. That is not something which will be supported by the institute or anyone. They will give you some initial support, but ultimately, if you want to survive, you have to write grants and you have to get all the money. You have to perform departmental services. There will be hundreds of committees that will be part of. There will be hundreds of meetings every day. Okay, that you do this, you do this, this is something be done. So all those things you have to do. So, for example, I'm part of the committee which decides which students should come after the COVID-19. So that the masters will come, the PhD will come, and there will be hundreds of mails of students there. I want to come back first. Somebody says that I don't want to come back. So all these things you have to, I mean, those are the services that you have to do. Then you have to do institutional service, like you have to become a warden of a hostel. There are security in charge, there are telephone in charge, everything will be a professor or an assistant associate professor. So this is one thing you should understand, that in management or in any industry, what happens, you have an HR, right? There is no HR in academia. So the professors have to do everything by themselves. Okay, so we are the one who would do all the things. Now I will switch my gear and I will focus onto GATE, because I would like to share my experience that how I cleared GATE, because I think GATE is 2 weeks away from now, and this may be helpful to the people who are writing the exam. Right. So this we already discussed. Okay. So the GATE exam is conducted by one of the IITs will be the leading IIT, and other IITs will be supporting all the old IITs. Okay, so this time IIT Kharagpur is the leading one, and all the IITs are also supporting. So there are regional centers which support in smooth conduction of the exam. Now a little bit about how the exam patterns are, and how to tackle those things. So for example, this is for 3 hours. Okay, there are 2 kind of question. One is MCQ and another NET type of question. So NET is basically you have to write an answer, fill an answer, and MCQ is basically, you know that, right? You have 4 options, and you have to choose 1 or 2 or 3, and you will have negative marking also. Okay, and there are totally 65 questions. I'll come into that, and there will be 3 sections. Okay. So there are 3. Basically, you can divide the question pattern into 3 parts. One is general aptitude, other is engineering mathematics, and third is basically your subject is specific. So if you are doing chemical engineering, you will have questions from chemical engineering, and major portion will be from that. Okay. So this is the breakup of all the questions. So total 65 questions. Okay, and total 100 marks. So 30 will be 1 mark and 35 will be 2 marks. You can see around 15 marks for the general aptitude, and then you have engineering mathematics and discipline subjects, which is basically your engineering subject. That will constitute around 85 marks. Okay, and then you have basically the qualification criteria, which is 25 out of 100, or you can do normal statistics, that what is the mean there, okay, and what is the standard deviation, and so based on that the qualification is decided. Okay, so that's why you get percentile in the grade. You don't get percentage. So it depends how many students are writing the exam. So suppose the topper has got like 70%, and depending on how many number of students you have, the second person who got let's say who had 69 correct answers, he might get 99.9 percentile, right? So that you get rank and percentile, you do not get percentage, right? So these are the general aptitude questions. I'm not going to detail, and these are the subject specific questions. Sorry, mathematics question, and these are the subject specific. This is for mechanical engineering. Okay, so similarly, you will have things which have, I think general aptitude remains the same, the verbal, quantitative, analytical, and spatial. But the things vary in the engineering mathematics part. For example, aerospace has slightly different syllabus, chemical will be slightly different syllabus, but you'll have these major components of algebra, calculus, right, differential equations, and all those things. And then you will have subject specific questions here. So just to give you an example, that if it is a general aptitude, so these kind of questions which related to like English knowledge here, that Jeffrey Archer, the English fast bowler, is more fast or faster, less fast, more faster than accurate. Okay, so these are simple questions. Then engineering mathematics, you'll have questions from engineering maths, and then you will have subject knowledge. So here there is a question on aerospace engineering here. So what are the expectations when you are writing a GATE exam? Because GATE is the key to the higher education or even some of the government jobs, right? So if you crack GATE, you have basically widened your potential to get into a job or get into higher education. So how do you crack that? So there are 4 things that the GATE test. One is a recall. There's something that you need to remember. Okay, so for example, you need to remember the chemical formula of let's say water, or what is the percentage of oxygen and nitrogen and air. So these are the things that you need to remember. So there is no excuse there that, okay, no, I should be given the notes for that. No, they will not give you. So this is something, this is basically, for example, second law of thermodynamics. You're supposed to remember that. Okay, this is not something that will be given. Then you have the comprehension, the basic knowledge test, that how well you can comprehend the given question and how to respond to that. Then you have application of that knowledge. And lastly, there is analysis. You will have diagrams and figures and basically some statistics, and you have to analyze all those details, and then you have to write the answer. So basically these kind of questions, basically application and analysis, are 2 marks question, where you need to spend some time, some thoughts, properly analyze it, and then give the answer. Now, these are some of the things that I did well preparing for the GATE, and this might be helpful for you. But there's a disclaimer that each person prepares in a different way. So you look for what is best for you. Okay. So what I used to do is that I used to write notes. So there are 2 kind of notes were there. One is a thorough notes, which is basically I used to take that in my classroom. So whenever a teacher is teaching, I will write that. Sometimes I would write that very well there. If I'm not writing there because it was like very fast, then I would come back to home and revise it. So I had this thing that if I write it somewhere in my notebook, I will remember it. Okay, if I do not write it, I'm bound to forget that. So I would make sure that I'll go and write that. Okay, but these are only concepts. These are not the solved problems. The problems you can solve at a different point of time, but concepts are very, very important, and that is what that should go in your notes, in your book notes. And when you're revising your notes, you should not require textbook. It should be detailed enough that you can just going through the notes, you can get your fundamental concepts. And this is something because we are now into this Y generation where everything is digital, right? So some people may say that, okay, no, I would not write, I'll type it, right? So I always prefer and I always suggest that you do not type it, but write it. If you write it, you will memorize it. Okay, it is there are a lot of research which has gone into that and say that if you type it, you will not remember it as well compared to if you had handwritten. So, for example, if I write a poetry, so I also write poetry. You can go to our YouTube channel of Vitan and you can listen to some of my poetries. Okay, so when I write poetry and if I am typing it, I do not get very good ideas. But if I'm writing it with pen and paper, so it goes very smooth. So you understand the difference, right? So your brain functions in a different way if you're writing with your hand compared to if you're just typing it, right? So writing with pen and paper is so natural to your mind, okay, while typing is not. Okay, and then I had another notes which were like very brief. It was a kind of diary, it's a very small diary. And I will refer that notes just one day before the exam or even the morning of the exam. Okay, so what I would do is that I'll just write very important formula and tips, which I know that I'm forgetting and which could be very important in solving problems or things that people want to memorize, right? So for example, I think I had a paper called chemical reaction engineering. Okay, and there are a lot of reactions there that I used to forget a lot. So what I used to do is that I would just write those things. Okay, so there are things which are conceptual, so that I would not memorize, but I would write any very important formula so that I don't make any mistake. But the things which I need to memorize, and I know that I'm not very good in memorizing, so I would write that in my small notes. Okay, so that these things really help me in planning the examination with a good rank. Okay. Now, this is another thing that you need to keep in mind, that where you are weak and where you are strong. Okay, so that is something only you can decide. No one else can decide. Okay, so the idea should be that, okay, whatever my strong topics are. Suppose my strong topic is heat and mass transfer. So I should not make any mistake. I should be so thorough that, okay, no matter how what kind of question is, I'm going to solve that. Okay, so your concept should be clear. You should have done enough problem solving into that. But what happens sometimes is you may get more questions from the topic which is weak to you, right? So do not completely ignore the weak topics. What my advice always is that, okay, you should at least have at least 50% preparation of the weak topics. So for example, probability was one of my weak topic in the mathematics, in engineering mathematics, right? So I knew that I could not solve very difficult problem into that, but I had this thing that, okay, the simple things come. For example, somebody asked me to find the mean or the median or all those parameters like 6 sigma, 4 sigma. So those things I can do. So, but somebody asked me a difficult question about probability, then I had difficulty. So I had kind of 50% preparation in probability, but 100% in, let's say, calculus or algebra, linear algebra. I had like a regular routine of kind of revising, and revising not necessarily with the notes, but sometimes I'm just pondering about that, something, just thinking about that. Okay, revising in my mind. So that really helps. And of course, this advice is that hope for the best, but be ready for the worst. Okay, so if you go with the mindset, then I don't think you will you will do really well. Okay, so now just before the exam, what you could do is basically thoroughly revise 10-15 days before the exam. So suppose if you're writing GATE, this is the time to revise everything. Okay, weigh yourself, previous year question papers, you can do mock test. This is also something that you should do 10-15 days before the examination. Be honest. So what happens when you do mock test, and this used to happen with me also, that okay, I solved 4 questions, and 5th question I'm finding it a little bit difficult. So what I should do is basically Hariom, can you please put your mic in mute? Okay. So be honest, that don't refer to a textbook while writing the mock test. Okay, keep your mock test as if you're writing your exam. Okay, and then you weigh yourself that, okay, what is the marks that I got? Be thoroughly honest in doing that. Okay, and if possible, keep the same time slot as exam, because as I told that your brain has got certain functions. So if you are writing the mock test in night 10 and if exam is next day 10 a.m., so you might not do as well. So if you are practicing also at 10 a.m., then your mind has got, I mean, it is wired into the thing that, okay, there is exam paper coming at that point of time, it looks like this, and then I have to solve in this way, right? So then it helps you. Look for the things. So while evaluating, look for the things that went wrong. So suppose you had a strong topic and then you could not do well there. So look for the reason why you could not do that. And identify patterns. This is something I used to do very thoroughly. So I would take last 10, 15 years questions and I would see that, okay, I will make, I think I somehow was good in analyzing the things than memorizing. So I would see that, okay, this topic has been repeated 3 years and not repeated next 2 years. So maybe after, if it is the third year, so maybe they're going to repeat it, right? So always look for patterns. So these kind of patterns really help you. Okay, identification of those patterns. So in the examination hall, there's some of the tips I am sure you know. I'm just repeating it, that be relaxed, be calm, okay, and glance through the entire question paper first. And this is my suggestion. You might disagree that start from the easiest question. So what I used to do is that I will glance the entire question and I will take the question which is the easiest. And the reason for that is it used to make me confident for the next 2 hours. So suppose I start with a tough question. It may be a high scoring question or high marking question, but I got stuck into that. Then I think even the easy questions, I may not be able to do that well, right? So this is something I always follow, that I look at the easiest question and start with that. Okay. And then I used to make a strategy. Okay. There are 1 mark question and 2 marks question. Question from general aptitude, question from mathematics, question from my subject is specific. So how do I choose so that I can score maximum in that given time of 3 hours? Negative marking is something you need to take care that if you're sure more than 60-70%, then only you go for that. Otherwise you don't do that. Okay. And take risk only more than 60%. Okay. And the one thing you should remember that you don't need to score 100%. You just need to be the best that day. And if you can do that, really you have done the job. Okay. And this is something which is trivial, but it's important that you do not forget to put your personal information, for example, your ID and other things. Okay. To put in the question paper. Now, these are the final tips that try to become a rank holder. No matter what exam you write, then at least you will qualify to get into a job or a thing. But if you start with, okay, I want to get 1000 rank, then probably if your bar is already low, then it may go even lower. So always go to, try to become a rank holder. Okay, so there is a story here that when I became the grand topper in my second year, so I had a friend and I was very happy and I called her and she said, okay, this is not something big, you should do something at the national level. Okay, and that day I started thinking, okay, maybe I could get a good rank, and then I got the all India rank 3 at that point of time. So this is something you need to always keep your bar high. So I am an assistant professor here, but I also want to do something which could be path breaking, right? So never ever stop at mediocrity, or being mediocre is something which is the biggest injustice that you can do to yourself. Okay, if you want to excel, leave that mindset, and if you believe that you can do well, you can excel in the field, you can really do that. Okay, now always go up in the ladder and keep in the contingency plan. So when I said up in the ladder, so suppose you're starting with BIT Sindri, you can try to get your master's into, let's say, IIT or IISc, and then after doing master's from here, maybe you can go to overseas experience, either for PhD or postdoc, right? So this kind of always go up in the ladder, but always keep a contingency plan with you. Okay. Now, these are some tips which will be helpful for you because you are all looking for opportunities in COVID-19. So one is that make your profile in LinkedIn. That is very, very important. Start following the people. You will not know that how many people are getting help by LinkedIn. Okay, of course, there are a lot of applications, you don't get it. But the number of people are getting jobs or getting positions or getting recognition for their work on LinkedIn is large. So always, I would suggest all of you, if you've not made that, go and be active on LinkedIn. Okay, and then of course, if you're looking for jobs, you have Indeed and Monster India, and I have not followed up like what are the new job sites are. You should make your profiles there. Make a very good resume. That is very, very important. Okay. The second is like this is now the online world. So you should be comfortable with your email communication and Zoom. So you will not know that people have such poor email communication. So they are asking me for a job, but they would not even bother to write a 3-line introduction, right? And those emails directly go to the garbage. Okay, so no matter how good you are, if you're not good into the communication, you're not going to get that. So the communication is the key. So there are certain etiquettes. So for example, you're doing a Zoom meeting. So nowadays, a lot of interviews in Zoom. If you're not dressed well, okay, if you're, so there is a very simple etiquette is that if somebody is presenting the talk and if he's on video, the person who is asking the question should also be video, also switch on the video as much as possible, right? So these are some very, very simple etiquettes. It is just respecting the person who is presenting the work, right? So these are some of the etiquettes that you need to follow. Asking the questions, the questions should be direct, questions should be sharp. So all those kind of things that you need to learn. Look for the internship options. So this is also something. So suppose you are not getting that position directly or not able to qualify, get that or any other exam, write to a professor, look for internship, because those things really help. Because if you can do good internship, you'll get a good recommendation, and that really helps you in fetching the job later. Okay, adapt based on the available career options. So this I am telling in the time of COVID-19 is because I know there are people who are stressed at this point of time because they are not getting the best career opportunities. So my suggestion at this point of time is that you should try to adapt a little bit based on what are the opportunities that are available at this point of time. There are lots of jobs in e-learning, data science, e-commerce. So these are new fields, telemedicine. So you should try to broaden your scope and be ready. You may have certain influx of jobs. So with that, I'll just finish in 2 slides. So one is that there are people who have been grieving about work from home. Okay, and I know this is not a nice or it's not a good situation, but I would just like to tell you that if you can utilize your time wisely, you can do wonders even working from home. So Isaac Newton worked from home during a pandemic and ended up discovering gravity. So if it can motivate you. Okay, and lastly, this is the takeaway that of course we talked about higher education and how to prepare for GATE and all. But my last message is that the pessimist complains about the wind, the optimist expects it to change, and the realist adjusts the sails. So you adjust your sails, and with that, I'll be happy to take any questions. Okay, and best wishes to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation, sir. So now we are open for the Q&A session. So, sir, I can already see a few questions in the chat. And if someone else wants to, unmute themselves and want to ask the question, you can also please go ahead. So, sir, we can start with a question in the chat section. The first question is, sir, how to get better rank in GATE in 3rd year?
And if I may ask, why do you want to do that?
Sir,
I mean, Vikas, so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so if I may ask, why do you want to get better rank in 3rd year? And is there any particular reason you are asking that question?
सर बिकॉज 4th ईयर में मुझे यूपीएससी देना है, जिसके कारण मुझे 3rd ईयर में गेट अच्छा रैंक लाना है बैक सपोर्ट के लिए.
Okay. Yeah, so see, the thing is कि गेट में दोनों ही 3rd year और 4th year दोनों के क्वेश्चंस रहते हैं. ठीक है. So I also gave the gate in 3rd year and I got around 300 rank. ठीक है, in the 3rd year because 4th year मैंने पढ़ाई नहीं था उस समय पे. ठीक है. So एक है कि एक पार्ट ऑफ द सिलेबस जो कि तुम्हारा गेट का सिलेबस है वो तुम बिल्कुल ही नहीं पढ़ रहे हो. ठीक है, तो वो क्वेश्चन तुम नहीं आंसर कर पाओगे. So but if you leave that question, still you have like at least 70-80% of question that you can do based on general aptitude, engineering, mathematics, and the syllabus up to 3rd year. So if you prepare all the syllabus well, I think you can do well in the third year also. But having said that, I would suggest that even if you're preparing for UPSC or whatever, I would ask you, I will suggest you to make an attempt in the fourth year also. Because if you've already done good in the third year, you may score better in the fourth final year.
Thank you, sir.
So the next
Yeah.
question is from Aryan Madhur, who is asking, is there any additional skills required to get job in PSU through GATE which help in increasing probability of getting job chances?
Yeah, so I think after you score well in the GATE, suppose you already have a good score, then it goes to how well you present in yourself in front of your interview panel, right? So there's some PSUs may have their own written test to find further filter it. Some may have just the interview, or some may look at your resume, right? So the additional skill, I would suggest that you align your thoughts according to the requirement of the job. So if you are going to a job in an oil company, you should present that, okay, you like that profession very well. So this is something that we would like to see in you, right? How well you would like the job. So if you start speaking about some other thing, then they would think that it's not relevant, right? So align yourself based on the job position. So that is only advice I will give you.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is, what is the right time to start preparing for GATE?
Yeah, so see, engineering mathematics is something you cover by the second year, right? So, and engineering mathematics is a major profession in GATE. So I will suggest that I think you should not ignore the math at any point of time. And then third year, you should get serious if you want to prepare for the GATE. Okay, so third year beginning is the right time.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is there any possibility to get into management field after cracking GATE?
You can do that. I mean, there are actually not really through GATE. So you can have multiple degrees if you want. So the really through GATE is you go to the technical degree, right? But there are jams, apart from CAT, there are IITs which also conduct the management exams. And there are departments which are management oriented. They're not truly management. They're not MBAs, but there are, for example, B.Tech in management. So those kind of courses are there. But if your mindset is to have a high salary job in the management, I would suggest that go for CAT. Okay, that is something you should aim for. Okay.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is, what about startups? So I believe someone wants to know, how to go ahead with the startups.
Yeah, so there are a lot of startups coming up now, okay, in every field. So there are pros and cons of the startup. Okay, so the pros is that you are taking a risk if you're joining a startup. But the con is that if you are taking a risk when you are joining a startup. But the pro is that if the company does well, okay, you are really at top of the ladder, right? Because you are the person who helped founding the company, right? You are one of the early member of the company, right? So it depends on your interest. So if you have the appetite to take risk, I think we should go for the startup, right? So it's like a share market a little bit. Okay, whether you want a bond which is consistently doing well, or whether you want to take risk which can give you good returns in a small amount of time. Right.
So the next question is, as we are shifting to a digital era, how can I pursue both core and IT? I do not want to miss out with the current trend. Is there any way out to relate both the domains?
See, the IT is something, both are in terms of definition or in terms of jobs, both are very different things, right? If you're asking me that whether you will be using more IT tools in your core, that is true. Okay, as you start working from your home, or as we go into this more digital era, so earlier people may not be knowing the PowerPoint presentation or Excel when they are working in the core, but now those are the requirements. Okay, this is something that you cannot ignore even if you are working in a core company, right? So I do not understand your question fully, but this is something that whether you want to go to IT or not, you should be aware of the basically day-to-day tools which will be useful in your CV or resume, and also will be helpful in your interview.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question, I think somewhat you have already responded. Is coding really important in future? Being a civil engineering student, should I also learn coding?
So yeah, so it relates to the answer that I gave earlier. This is something that is really going to help you. So what is your aim at this point of time? To make your resume as best as you could, right? So you will never know. So it's not about civil engineering or chemical engineering or production or mechanical or anything, right? If you have more skills, you can align yourself into you are more ready for the job which is coming. Right? So suppose you did not do coding, and a company comes which asks for coding skills, then you will be left out, right? So, but if you have done little bit of coding, at least get your hands dirty, maybe you have not pursued it so seriously, but if you given a chance, you can adapt to it. So the company would like to hire you. So you want as many bullet points as you can in your CV. So if you can learn more skills, that will always be better.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is really very important. Sir, how to manage mental stress while preparing for prestigious exams such as GATE?
Yeah, so this is a very important question, and I think many of you go through this. So I tried highlighting some of the things in my slides, but the one thing I would always tell you is that people who crack the gate and who do not crack the gate, the only thing, only difference between the two is that how do they manage the time, right? So everybody got 24 hours, and I believe that if you're preparing for a gate and if you're serious about it, you certainly have certain level that you can crack the gate if you manage your time effectively, right? So I have a couple of suggestions, and you can also do it the way you want. So first of all, follow a good routine. Okay, if you want to avoid stress, so follow a good routine. And my suggestion is that if you can adopt some kind of yoga or meditation in your daily lifestyle, that really helps you. The third thing I suggest is basically look for the inspiring literature. Okay, so you don't know how much we ignore the importance of literature in our life. So we get engrossed into something which we are doing, and we get so carried away that you forget about all other things, which is very important for a mental health, right? So as I told that I was a member of Sarjana, and people actually still wonder that how do I continue my hobby of writing poetry, because as I told you that we have a very busy lifestyle here. But that is something actually helps me in doing my thing more efficiently. So this is something you need to understand, is that you need to have your you need to have your mind completely blockage free if you want to do well. Okay, if you want to not to get stressed. So I strongly suggest you that have some hobby, some inspiring literature that you can do in the time when you are not studying. So in the sense that I never suggest anyone that, okay, you study 22 hours a day. That is really not nobody expects you to do that. Okay, and if you do that, you are really overdoing it, and it is not going to help you. Okay, so my suggestion is that take some time out, take a walk. Okay, think about the things that makes you happy. Okay, read some inspiring literature, and pursue at least one hobby you should have. Okay, so that is something very, very important. You cannot be like we used to call the kitabi kida, right? So I was not that, and I do not suggest anyone to become that.
Thank you, sir, for this
Hmm.
motivational answer. I think it will really help them. The next question is, sir, sometimes there is a financial problem in a family. So I
Mhm.
want to know about what you think about that, or any suggestions for them.
Yeah, so this is a part of life. Okay, as I told you, in the kind of developing countries or the middle class, we have this, and the answer I can give you, and it may be easier said than done, is basically, you need to take it in a positive way, in the sense that if something is not working well for you right now, it is something to test you. and something to make you stronger, and it should really help you making you a better person, right? So dealing with this kind of situation, I mean, see, there is a famous quote that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Okay, so how much you suffer because of these instabilities or the problems is something that depends on you. Whether you would like to make it as a source of inspiration that you want to do well for your family because of these reasons, or you want to get stressed out and say, okay, nothing is happening. That it all depends on your outlook. So I'm an optimistic person, and I will always suggest you to have a positive outlook. There are difficulties in every family. There are challenges. There are times which are not good. There are times which are good. But if you wait enough, and if you're there, if you're hanging out there, you're going to make a difference. So I would only say that hang out there, it's going to change.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, as we are running out of time, so we will take a few more questions. So the next question that I want you to take is that, sir, could you please share something about your poetic interests? You have been at Sarjana, and our audience will be delighted to know how a poet resides in a researcher.
Yeah, so poetry is something which is very close to my heart. Okay, and I'm glad that you asked this question. Okay, so and I mean, I've slowly become like a situational poet. You know, so I have a 5-year-old kid, and I used to write. I mean, I've started writing poetry for kids, small kids. Okay, so there are recent poetry that I've written. For example, I've written one on Dasahara. ये रावण के थे 10-10 सर, मेरा बस एक छोटा सा, मैं तो कितना दुबला पतला, रावण कितना मोटा सा. Right. So this I wrote for my son, and then I actually wrote several. So that is one inspiration. Second, as I told, I'm situational. So situation basically makes me, I mean, inspires me to write things, and then the thoughts come immediately into my mind. And my father is also a poet, so I think there is some gene from that. And when I came to BIT Sindri, I was fortunate to get inducted into Sarjana, and that really basically honed my poetic skills. I mean, being into Sarjana, because I mean, there are lots of clubs, as you know, in BIT Sindri. I think the numbers would have been increased there. The one good thing about Sarjana was that it was not about basically it was not glamorous. It was something which was very deep to your heart. Okay, so if something is very deep, then it really makes you evolve as a better person. There are other clubs which really goes into the glamour, and Sarjana is something which like ask you, or basically expects from you to go deep into your thoughts or deep into your heart, and take out whatever you have. And that's what I do here, that I just I mean, whenever I get some inspiration, I sit down and I just start scribbling around about it, and I mean, the poetry comes out of it. Okay, sometimes I have to revise to make it a better poetry, and I write both like Mukta Chand and the one which has got Chand. Right, so yeah, so it is something which I really like doing, and this is my hobby. Okay, and that I mean, I get the inspiration from the poetry, and that really keeps me alive.
Thank you so much, sir. It also took me to the days of Sarjana when I was there, and how literature helped me and everyone to go with what we wanted to do. So the next question is that all branches have a very vast syllabus to cover. How do you recommend tackling this?
Yeah, so I mean, the one answer to that is basically the same syllabus is there for everyone. Okay, it is about a competition. It is not about examination. So if you can do well from, let's say, 10% around you, you have done well, right? So that's what it is. So the syllabus is there, the same syllabus is there for everyone, and everyone prepares their best. So if you can basically do better from the people who are competing with you, you have done the job. So I don't think there is any specific thing about the vast syllabus, because it is what it is.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is, sir, if I want to contact you in future for any guideline or support in difficult situation for choosing career option, how should I contact you?
You can send me an email. That is the best way to contact me. So my email is there on my website. Uh, on IIT Kanpur, you can look at my name on my website and you can contact me through email, or you can send me a LinkedIn message. Okay.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is, how did you decide about pursuing higher education outside India, about GRE and the challenges you had to face? We would like to know your experience regarding this.
Actually, I was there in the US for 4 years and I really enjoyed that period. Okay, but at the same time, I wanted to come back. So, and that's why I'm here. Okay, I had more time there and I could have settled down there, but I wanted to come back. So I actually enjoy being into different cultures and different societies. Okay, if I get a chance, I'll probably spend a year in Australia or New Zealand or Europe. So that is something I really like. But at the same time, I want to contribute to the scientific growth in India. Now, regarding the question that how did you decide about GATE or GRE? So the thing is, it is actually, I was very lucky in that point of view that it started falling in front of me. So I really did not have to make any effort. As I told you that I did not have the clarity that what I want to do in my life, but it started falling in front of me. So I wrote both GAT and GATE, and I got a good score in GATE, and it was so good that I could not resist going to a higher education. Okay, and then once I went to IISc Bengaluru, it was a very different environment. So there, if you get a chance to go there, I mean, I would suggest don't miss that. It's not about the degree that you get, but the environment there, it's amazing. I mean, even if you get a chance to do even internship at IITs, some of the old IITs, you would see the difference there. Okay, so and IISc actually changed my life. So there I started thinking a little bit broad. So before that, I had this mind that okay, if I do the maybe this course or this degree, I'll get a better salaried job. But IISc changed my mind and it brainwashed me up to some extent that up to so much extent that I mean forgot everything about settling down, and I just wanted to explore as much as I can. Okay, so that's how we went to IISc, then I went to CRL Pune, then I came back to Bangalore, then I went to US, and then I came back to India. And yeah, I mean there are I mean I have a family here, so that's why I'm a kind of settled person. But otherwise, I am a very, I mean my nature is exploratory, so I really don't like this concept of settling down.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is just an extension to what you were speaking about IISc Bangalore life. So, sir, can you please share something about your experience of research in IISc Bangalore?
Yeah, so that is the first time I came to know what really research is. Okay, so I actually had done one project that you always do in BIT Sindri, but that was not really so much of research. Okay, I had some data and just plotted some tables and plotted some charts and made some tables, but I did not do any analysis there. So IISc from the very beginning, the courses were so rigorous. So I had like 6 courses, and every course will have so many assignments and so many exams. So none of the weeks were free. Okay? It was very, very rigorous the first semester. And I went from chemical to aerospace. So I had to learn so many new things. I did not even know that how an aeroplane fly. And I had to learn all those things from the basics. So the first semester was very, very rigorous. And then there are different ways to do research. Some people do experiments. Some people do computations. Right? Some people just do some analytical work, right? So then you had to choose that what kind of thing that you want to, what basically interests you more, whether it is experiment or computation. So I like the computation, so that's how I went to this area of computational fluid dynamics. Okay, so this is area where you basically write some codes and simulate the flow around any body. You can simulate the flow around aircraft or car or any aerodynamic body or space vehicle. So that's how I got interested into CFD, and I had, I mean, all the people there are really good people. So there, the culture is very, very different. So For example, there when we went first, we used to stand up when the teacher used to come in the class. So the teacher would come and say, please don't stand up. Some teacher would say, please call me by first name. Call me by my first name. So the professors are saying that. Okay. So this was a very different experience, a very different environment. And so what I learned there is that these people are a bit different. So they have a different goal in their life. So they live for the research and they want to basically contribute to that. So I actually got very inspired by that kind of life and the experience. I mean, I cannot share how much happy I was when I was into IISc, and as I told, that really saved my career.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Sir, as we are running out of time, we will just take one or two more questions and then.
Sure.
So the next question is, for the preparation of GATE, is coaching important or not?
I did not take any coaching. So it may be useful, but I think more than coaching, what I would suggest the test series. Okay, so I mean, see, the exam in GATE, it basically tests you how well you know your basically the subject matter, right? Whatever engineering field you are. So if you are keeping up to the mark in your class, or if you don't have very good teachers, then of course you have to basically rely on some material, either study material or coaching. I don't know. But the test series, which is something which is very, very important. So maybe before the exam, if you are satisfied with your preparation, it's time to weigh that how good you are, right? So as I told you, there is a difference between competition and examination. So examination, everybody can get 90%, above 90% marks. If the 100 people writing, everybody can get above 90%. But then the competition, it depends on who is the top, who is on the top, right? So if you have like 5 positions, so other 95 will be thrown out, even if they have more than 90%. So the test series gives you a chance to find out that how good you hold the water, right? So this is something I would recommend all of you, that go for the test series. If you cannot afford to go to like a professional test series, at least get some questions from the past year and write the answers honestly. I mean, during that time frame, like 3 hours or 2 hours. Okay.
Thank you, sir. So the last question that I want you to take is how to balance between academics and GATE preparation.
Actually, it's not very hard. Okay, if you would have asked me that how to balance between the academics and the CAT preparation or the UPC preparation, I would have said that okay, you need to probably find some time out. But the GATE is not very hard because it is the same syllabus that you have been studying in your third year and the final year, right? So if you're just doing well into that, if you are just understanding and following the concepts, I think you'll do well in GATE. Right, there's nothing specific that you need to do. Okay, it's only that you need to have good good control over your concepts, and maybe what you can do is that look for the questions in that particular subject and see how well you do that, right? So you can look at the get the material maybe from a coaching or somewhere else and see how well your concept translate into solving those problems. Right, but it's not a different syllabus at all. It's exactly the same syllabus. You should one thing that you can weigh in is basically how good you are in the maths. So it's not going to come from anywhere else. It's the same calculus, same linear algebra, same probability, right? So I think you can very well do that. The only thing you need to keep in mind is that you need to be best among the lot.
Thank you, sir. Sir, as we are left with just 2 minutes, so I would like to thank you for taking students through your life, giving the students enough reason to decide why to go for the higher education, telling them the pros and cons and the challenges and the rewards, and also highlighting the difference between the academia and industry. So thank you once again, sir. If I go back to my engineering days, I was very skeptical whether to go for electrical related job or for MBA. And it took me years to take the right decision. but I'm pretty sure that our juniors will definitely make the most of this webinar. And thank you once again, sir, for this webinar session. And I thank you everyone else for being such a wonderful audience. And thank you, Sarjana team, for organizing this session so beautifully. And if you have any more questions, then you can reach out to Dr. Rajesh Ranjan sir at his email ID and also on his LinkedIn profile. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so I would also like to thank all the Sarjana members and the entire Vitan team for organizing this session so well. And of course, all the students, because I come from the same institute, BIT Sindri. It's a very pleasure to meet you, and maybe we can meet sometime. I always want to go there, but this COVID is not letting me go to my alma mater. But I hope that I go sometime, and that time we should not have this online. We could have this physically, and I can meet all of you and answer all your questions. Okay, so yeah, with that, thank you all for being such a nice audience. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you
So
sir.
much.
I'm sure all of us will be taking with us a major sense of direction when it comes to pursuing higher studies. We thank Rajesh sir for the wonderful presentation and Anil sir for handling it so wonderfully. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.